Welcome to the Marketing and Mindset Podcast, where we share expert tips for the mind, body, and soul to help your business thrive. Tune in for free marketing or mindset expert training to boost your business. Hello, welcome to Marketing and Mindset, here for another amazing episode to help your business grow in all of the different areas that you can help your business grow, your mind, your body, your spirit, all of it. We're here today with Mia Zambarano, who is our guest speaker today. She's a licensed therapist and a mental performance consultant, and she is going to share awesome tips with us today. So I'm really, really excited about it. We're going to be talking about why mental health matters and how it can affect your business. And it's such an important topic that I think a lot of people don't talk enough about. You know, so many business owners focus on marketing and mindset, but the mental health part of it can get a little ignored sometimes. So we're going to dig into that a little bit today. So Mia, if you could introduce yourself, let us know who you are, what you do, and how you got started with what you do.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Vanessa, thank you for having me on. So, as was mentioned, I am a licensed therapist. I've been in the mental health field treating individuals and groups for almost 10 years now. And throughout that process and just different settings, clinical settings, I really realized that I was having so much fun getting people to where they wanted to be. And then because it no longer met medical necessity, if you're in the therapy world, you know that especially to get it cleared through insurance, it has to meet medical necessity, meaning that it's impacting your functioning in some aspect of life. So if it was what we were getting to the point where we're meeting our goals, and I was like, but there's so much more work that could be done, right? Really enhancing, getting that next level, optimizing your performance. And as a former Division I college athlete, I'm a very competitive person. So it gets me excited to help other people get to that next level too. So I kind of created my own program, and then through additional trainings and evidence-based strategies that I learned both through psychology and counseling, I created this performance program, and I've absolutely loved it. So it's really where my focus is now. I do still see people for therapy, but a lot of what I work on is the performance consulting aspect, is really understanding how to build a relationship with your thought process and really taking control of your reality so that there are no limits for you.
That's amazing. So you literally help people with their performance, as in their performance in everything, like in life, like being able to
Yeah,
deal with their mental
absolutely.
health to perform to their best potential, essentially.
Exactly. I think some people, when we say the word performing, they think it's like an act or it's like a big show, but the reality is we're constantly performing.
Right.
It's how you show up in life. It's any action, any task that you're doing. It's how you interact with your family, your friends, how you take care of yourself, how you present, how you take care of your business, all of those things, how it's just we're constantly performing, and having that
Right.
framework in itself is such a shift for some people. Just acknowledging, like, this is it, this is the spotlight you're on, you're always
Yeah.
on, and like how's the quality of that. And to have the best life that you want to have, it's worth just kind of evaluating that, not judging it, but evaluating it and knowing where we can enhance and build upon.
That's awesome. That's amazing that you do that. You know, I think everyone could honestly improve their performance, you know, in
Oh yeah.
general. Like we all have things going on. You don't have to have a mental health condition to
No,
actually like benefit from counseling and therapy and
exactly.
stuff. So
Yeah.
that's great that you do that. You help people do that. Um, So with, you know, my audience, a lot of business owners,
Yeah.
we're going to be digging into this whole mental health aspect of it.
Hmm.
One of the things that I hear a lot of business owners talk about so much, and it's actually in the topic of the name of my podcast, Marketing and Mindset. I hear
Yeah.
there's a lot of mindset coaches, excuse
Yeah.
me, so many people that talk about mindset, but not enough people that talk about mental health. Like I very rarely run into someone who's a business mental health expert. It's always
Right.
mindset that I find. So, what is the difference? Is there a difference between
Mm.
mental health and your mindset? I'd like to know that.
Absolutely. So, mental health, let's break it down for a second. Mental health is very much like physical health. We just don't give it as much attention, but everyone has mental health. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how established you are, how successful. Mental health is the quality of your well-being in relation to your emotions, your psychology, your mentality, right? Your
Mhm.
mind, your thoughts, process, everything. So it's just kind of, how is it, right? Your health,
Right.
just like your physical health is, how is your body working? Mental health, how is your mind, your emotions, how is that all functioning? We all function in that sense. We're all human. So
Right.
it's important, like you wouldn't wait till hopefully you wouldn't wait till something was wrong physically to start like going to a doctor or taking care or eating well or exercising, right? I guess some of us do, but
Yeah.
there's more, it's more normalized, I think, to be more proactive physically, whereas mental health, it's like we don't understand it as much maybe, or it's not talked about. It's not part of, we grow up and we have a phys ed class. We don't have a common core mental health class, which I think is bonkers still, if you ask me.
Yes.
But just understanding that it's something we all have, and the more you understand it, the more you learn about it, the more we build a relationship with it, and it could only get better, right? Why would we not want to foster and nurture that part of ourselves? That's basically our governing center. And our mind and body are completely connected. So there's that aspect of it too. So, anyone who's not sure, here's mental health. It's really just the quality of your well-being in that aspect
Right.
of you. Uh, mental mental illness is where there's a struggle in a certain respect, struggle managing your emotions, struggle managing where we see like depression, or if there's a chemical imbalance. So also normalizing, like, you know that's what that looks like when something's just not working as you want it to, or it's impeding how you function in an aspect of your life. That's mental illness. Mental health,
Mm.
mental illness. Mentality, or we talk about mindset, is
Mhm.
really a set of beliefs or perception that
Yeah.
we have about ourselves, the people around us, what we're doing. Now, that's extremely important, extremely powerful. And I think the reason more people focus on that is not a lot of people have a psychology background. Not a lot of people have that counseling, psychology, clinical background, and then go into this world. They go from, either a coaching standpoint, or the understanding that, how we think impacts us. And just
Right.
to kind of revisit that aspect of things, is mindset is extremely important, because those set of beliefs or perception impact how we feel. And that's our notification center. How we feel, our emotions, impact how we act or respond to a situation.
Yeah.
And that is a very simple representation of our reality for the most part. So we can really make that work for us or against us. And bringing that into our awareness is where it can absolutely propel us forward. So
Right.
that is where I like to distinguish the health aspect of your mental health versus mentality and mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good answer. And it's funny that you brought up the fact that, like, you know, our physical health is really more given more attention, since from
Mhm.
the little, you've got like the food pyramid
Yeah,
and teaching you how to eat. And, they're pushing now, I know, especially the past few years, are pushing more exercise for kids and encouraging
right.
it more,
Mhm.
to try to make sure our kids stay healthy physically.
Yeah.
But I don't think that mental health has really been addressed much, even in children, until like since the pandemic. I think like
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
really become more of a thing since the pandemic because they've realized how like the kids were affected by it.
Yeah.
But there should be a mental health class like
Oh,
standard
absolutely.
in school.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sorry, I'm like going off on a tangent on that, but
No,
it's
not at
true,
all. Yeah.
like it's something that I just don't think that enough people give attention to, and mental health is so important. And I think for mental health is wrong, everything else can go wrong. How we eat, how we take care of our bodies, whether we
Oh,
exercise or not, this
absolutely.
affects it all.
Absolutely.
But no, that's good. And I love how you separated the difference, mental health being like we all have it. It's either good or bad, or, and then mindset is really just like you said, our beliefs. Which honestly, I wasn't even sure how to answer that. So I like how you kind of separated
Yeah,
those
and
two
with
things.
mental health, I don't even know if we wanna say good or bad, because I think there's, like, shame or guilt that can come along with that. It's just the functioning. It's just, like,
Right.
how are we functioning? Just again,
Right.
you wouldn't be like, "Oh, I feel bad about, like, being physically sick in a certain way or having an injury." Like, it is what it is. So just understanding how your mind, how your body is functioning, that they're completely connected, to your point, that if your mental health is struggling, it's going to impact how you treat yourself, and it absolutely impacts your physical health as well, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, when it comes to mental health and mindset, If you are struggling in your mental health, can that affect your mindset? And vice versa. Let's say that you have gotten mindset coaching, and now you're like, you have a new thinking process where your beliefs are more positive and everything. Can that affect your mental health in general? Are those, intertwined together?
Absolutely. Changing our thoughts does more than just that. It's again like how your brain is thinking, what it's telling you releases different chemicals and how we feel. And that's why, there's things that like cognitive behavioral therapy that are evidence-based that help with depression, anxiety, because it's clinically proven that if you really buy into a new set of beliefs, a new mindset, if you will, it will change other things because, like we just said, if you think a certain way, right, those thoughts are going to give you an emotion, right?
Right.
I can't do this. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I can't do this. That's a thought. How's that going to
Right.
make you feel?
Yeah.
Scared, timid, uncertain, right? That emotion is going to inform an action or reaction, right? You're
Yeah.
going to avoid, procrastinate, whatever it might be, doubt yourself, and maybe you don't get the outcome, you don't present as confident. And then you kind of have this experience that then informs another thought process. See, I knew I couldn't do it, or like I'm
Right.
never doing that again. That was horrible. So when we see that, it's constantly happening. And if you look it up, science says we have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, the average person. That becomes
Wow.
very heavy really quick, right?
Yeah, I
That
can
can work
relate to
really,
that.
yeah, right. That can work really strongly for us and against us. Where we talk about business owners or people that are performing at a really high level, it's probably even more than that,
Right.
right? So when we talk about our mental health, if you're having this process constantly going on, which it is, that's just kind of how we function. But a lot of us, that's happening in our subconscious mindset, not our conscious mind where we're taking
Hmm.
control over it. We're kind of like on the roller coaster, and only when it's not working for us or we're at the tail end of it, like what the heck just happened, or I feel horrible, then we try to intervene. But having that up front, it can do us such a service. So that's a lot of what I work on with the people
Yeah.
I work with. So when we talk about how that impacts your mental health, if you have a negative narrative or a negative mindset, of course that's going to impact,
Right.
our well-being, right?
Yeah.
Going back to that kind of basic assessment of what that means. Now, on the other side of it, your mental health, there are so many things that can impact our mental health, right?
Yeah.
So, it doesn't have to be in relation to our business. It could be something from our experiences or trauma or whatever, and we don't function in isolation. We might try to compartmentalize, but the reality is we don't function in isolation.
Right.
And if you have something going on outside of your business or outside of work or whatever it is, that can still very well impact you if you're not addressing it. Right. So if you
Yeah.
have this mental health condition or something, or illness or something that's going on, that's going to impact how you think, your perception, your emotions, even regulating fear or anxiety or sadness or whatever. Of course, going back to what we were just talking about. Of course, that's going to impact your actions, reactions, your responses.
Yeah.
So yes, they're both extremely important, extremely tied together, and knowing that, taking advantage of it, and having it work for you can create really incredible shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, something that I've been working on for the past few years is self-awareness, just because my son's actually, he's got ADHD and anxiety. And when he first got diagnosed, I grew up with a really, I'm Hispanic and I grew up with a Hispanic mom, which is like tough love,
Yeah.
if you're Hispanic, you might know it's some tough love.
Yeah.
And that's what I was used to. I was used to getting yelled at all the time. I was used to like, suck it up, buttercup. Like that's just what
Yeah.
I grew up on.
Mhm.
So, obviously as a parent, you try not to be like, you try to be better than your parents. You try to be better. And I was trying, but I was really still very much like my mom when it came to like tough love, towards my son until I found out about his ADHD and anxiety diagnosis. Then it changed everything for me. Like I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, I had ADD too as a kid. I was like, I cannot parent this way. I have to find a new technique for him that's going to be easier on him, based on
Mhm.
his issues. And I had to learn how to be more self-aware, which was something that I'm very impulsive and I've kind of just gone through life being me, not thinking too much about, honestly, like just selfishly, just like being me. Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, like my personality can affect people because I'm kind of really straightforward and frank, and some people are sensitive. And I'm like, that's always been a struggle with me. but I had to become more self-aware. And I think that being self-aware is so powerful because it's helped me a lot
Absolutely.
improve and
Mm,
think of like, okay, how should I react to this? Let me pause, like learn to pause, which is something that takes years of practice, I think. So I'm
oh
still
yeah.
working on pausing and being less reactive. And that's something that I think that all business owners really need to think
Oh,
through. And
absolutely.
everyone really, not just business owners, that self-awareness of paying attention to your mindset. Like some people might not realize they've had this way of thinking for so long that's affected them and has affected their mental health, and that they don't even realize it, like they haven't paused to think. So anyone listening to this
Yeah.
episode, pause and think, like what's something that you're doing, something I used to do that I'm working on not doing. And it was always playful with like talking negatively about myself, like
Yeah.
almost like self-roasting jokingly, like, oh, Vanessa, you're crazy, or oh, Vanessa, you screwed it up again, surprise, or, just something like that. And something that I've learned from, my co-host Connie, who's on all the Clubhouse recordings, and we're going to get her on here soon to co-host with me, is that even just talking negatively to yourself can impact your mental health, and your
1000%.
mindset
Yep.
and everything. So there's just all of these little things that I think become habits or subconscious that really can affect us, both mindset and mental health, that literally just like affects everything. I'm
Yeah.
talking a lot. What are some
No, no. Well, I was going to say, to elaborate on that, like how we talk to ourselves, or just again those set of beliefs or perceptions about ourselves or others. Our brain's always listening. It's always taking in from information, and the relationship we develop with ourselves directly impacts the relationship we have with others. So even
Mhm.
as a business owner, business professional, people talk about these blocks that they're having, or why they're not getting clients, why they're not converting. A lot of it is self-imposed that we just have no idea. We don't realize. It's like if you're limiting your beliefs on what can happen, you may not even realize, but your actions, reactions, your emotions are informing that, and you're creating this reality that you could change. We don't
Right.
realize how much control we have. But, to your point, so many of us go into these negative narratives, and maybe we didn't start that narrative. Maybe the seed was planted long, long, long ago by the kid in second
Mhm.
grade that called us annoying, right? We don't know, but it's there. And if it gets watered, it grows, and it impacts us in a lot of different ways that we don't realize. So building that
Yeah.
relationship with yourself, how am I talking about to myself? How do I feel about myself?
Yeah.
Having that insight is where we can create change and where things can get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so powerful. I know once I started working on that, paying attention to my actions and my thoughts and my
Mm,
words, it was like, because again, I used to be so impulsive. It was really life changing. I was like, okay, like I
yep,
got stuff to work on, but it can make just such a huge difference, especially with people around you.
for sure.
Okay, so another thing is, I know that mental health can affect a lot of areas of your life. Like we talked about, how you eat, how you exercise, whether you care to, whether you care enough to take care of yourself and things like that. How does like mental health affect, like what are some things that it can affect in people's businesses if if their mindset, whether it's that their mindset is negative and that's impacting their mental health or vice versa, if they're struggling with their mental health, what are some ways that you feel or have seen it affect business owners, when it comes to the success of their business, if their mental
Mm.
health isn't, in a healthier state?
So so again, going back to mental health is something that's constantly happening. It's not something we turn on and off. It's not something some of us have. We all have mental health. So it is always significant. Where
Mhm.
we're struggling in it, I think what a lot of people, especially really successful business owners, is the more we ask of ourselves, the more we should be giving to ourselves. And that's not always the case. We're so busy, we skip lunch, or we don't have time for this, or we don't have time for self-care. And it ends up being such a detriment. We make silly mistakes, or we are not thinking as clearly, or tasks are taking us longer. So it absolutely impacts us. Now again, nothing happens in isolation. So whether it's a mental health struggle that we've always had that's impacting us, or because we're not taking care of ourselves, or there's this pressure, or again these narratives around confidence or what we're capable of, that can become really intense to navigate when you have all of these things that you're supposed to be in control, that you're supposed to be successful in, maybe people that are depending on you, maybe you have employees that you have to take care of, that you're meeting their needs too.
Right.
So it's extremely significant, and seeing it as more of a foundation of a must. That's something we must take care of to get to that higher level of functioning. If you look at, a hierarchy of needs, a lot of us might be familiar with Maslow, but at that bottom, it's like our essential needs. It's right, the food, water, shelter, etc.
Right.
Above that is safety and security. And if you're not telling your mind that you're taking care of it, if you're not consistently addressing that, you're not going to perceive that you're safe and secure, even if you are, right? But
Right.
there's this idea of like, again, fear, anxiety, like your brain can't distinguish that all the time of like an actual threat or a perceived threat.
Right.
So you are doing yourself a huge disservice by not attending to that, by not acknowledging that it's something that's always there. So, how business owners are impacted, we kind of, people can neglect that part of them. And
Right.
then until it becomes an issue, then they're trying to troubleshoot. And then
That's
it's
true.
more kind of, damage control, if you will, or crisis management. And then it's getting to the higher functioning pieces of like, wait, if I use my mind this way, I can achieve so much more because it's connected, like you said, different areas of functioning, our nutrition, our exercise, our family, our relationship, our interpersonal effectiveness, our mindfulness, our, everything, right? It
Yeah.
impacts everything. So we could see how that could take a turn for the worse or for the better.
Yeah.
So, again, common issues, you're just not attending to your mental health, not prioritizing it, not prioritizing self care, being too busy. And then there's the
Yeah.
aspects of comparison, of pressure, of limiting narratives. And again, even if you are so successful, you're making as much money as you want, there's still a wellness piece that
Hmm.
can creep up on you. Again, we're
Yeah.
all human. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing something, how you do it. There's still that wellness piece, that foundational piece that needs to be there.
Absolutely. And honestly, I need to do a whole episode on just like self-care, and how important
Oh
that
yeah,
is.
yeah,
That's like a whole nother episode that we can
for
talk about
sure.
because it's something that I think a lot of business owners and moms, especially me as a mom, I know
Mhm.
it,
Oh yeah,
really neglect ourselves when it comes to our needs because we put everybody else first. So
yeah, and we
so
burn
but
out.
that's again, that's a
Mhm.
whole another topic we don't have time for today. But so like let's say someone's listening to this episode and they're like, man, I'm feeling it, like I really
Yeah.
haven't been, my mindset's not okay, or my mental health doesn't seem like it's okay. Like I haven't,
Mhm.
I can't think clearly, my business is struggling, whatever the case may be. What are some things you can suggest to help people out who are struggling with their mental health or their mindset or both, when it comes to, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? What are some tips you can give them?
Well, perspective is a beautiful thing. You just said the light at the end of the tunnel. So knowing that whatever is going on for you right now doesn't need to be the outcome, right? You have more control than you realize. And we have control in our mindset, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions or reactions. And kind of what we were talking about before, I really encourage you, if you are struggling in any of these aspects, just start noticing without judgment. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't think that way. That you're not building a solid relationship with yourself. You have to hear yourself out. So, what are the thoughts that are coming up for you? Building awareness. How can you tweak or even just neutralize it if it feels too uncomfortable to think positive? How are you attending to your emotional health? What are you doing to regulate yourself on a daily basis? There are vulnerability factors you can help yourself with. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating consistently? Like those things, we don't realize how much we joke about being hangry, but how often is like we're not meeting those basic needs.
Right.
Your brain's going to go on strike. It's the toddler in Target not getting what it wants. It's your brain. It's kind of a protective feature though for us. Is I'm not going to give you those higher level things until you give me the fuel I need to go do it. So
Right.
you might be creating this deficit for yourself you don't even realize. So just building awareness, take a little inventory. And I have a performance inventory. If you go to my website, completely free, you go on, it'll prompt you to take the performance appraisal. You go through, you have it for yourself. It'll give you ranges. It gives you really thought provoking questions on just like if you're experiencing certain things. And that's always something you could have a free consultation with me on. But in terms of what you can do for yourself, that what I was talking about before, just understanding what thoughts are coming up for you on a regular basis, how that's impacting you emotionally, and how that's informing your actions or reactions, and any way you can intervene on those. If you're emotionally driven, could you introduce music in the morning to get yourself going? If
Mhm.
you're action oriented, is it introducing exercise meeting a day? Is it doing things that make you feel good, or just reestablishing a self care routine and just redefining self care? I think I'm not saying it can't be the bubble baths and the beach walks, but it's also just, again, the quality in which you're taking care of yourself. Are you meeting your needs? Are you doing things for yourself? Are you enjoying your life? Because
Right.
you're not, what's the point, right? I think we lose perspective in that too. And that's going back to my initial point is perspective is a very powerful thing of just being able to not compound yourself, that your identity is not what you do, it's who you are. And I think a lot of, again, business owners struggle with that. They see themselves as their business, and that there needs to be some separation there because you have to have that self-preservation. So
Yeah.
that would be my suggestion. If you want a little bit more, something tangible, I think, again, why people maybe struggle with pursuing mental health or mental wellness or mentality is because it seems so abstract at times. So my performance appraisal is there to give you kind of a solid tool to
Yeah.
look through, to ask yourself these questions, and to see where you could build upon.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love how one of the first things you said, like, if you're, if you feel like you're struggling with your mental health, is literally just take care of your body, like make
Mm-hmm.
sure you get enough sleep, make sure
Yeah.
you're eating 3 meals a day at least, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're getting some kind of exercise, like just literally those basic human
Basic needs.
body
Yeah.
needs
Mm-hmm.
can so easily be neglected, especially by business owners. Like I see it, hear it all
Absolutely.
the time. Like, I'm just now working on trying to get myself to eat breakfast during breakfast hours,
Yeah.
because like I need it for my personal health and needs. I'm like, I need to start eating breakfast. But like it's so easy to get lost in this world of being an entrepreneur and owning a business and just being busy, 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 busy. And it's such a busy world we live in. Like you're pretty much the way society is and culture is, you're praised for being busy and having
Yeah.
so much to do, and you're kind of looked frowned upon if the images of someone laying on their couch doing nothing is looked at as negative, when honestly, like if you really need to like just lay on your couch and do nothing and just take a break from everything, do it. You know what I mean? Like just do what you need to do to feed your body and your needs. So I love that that was like one of the
Yeah.
first things you mentioned, like, hey, just take care of your
Yeah.
body.
And let it be intentional, right? Self-care days, a big believer. And I think a lot of us don't understand what that means. And, we binge Netflix, or we do just sit around, but that could be counterproductive if it's not intentional. So I'm not
Right,
saying you
that's
can't
true.
watch a good movie or do that, but make sure you're doing it intentionally of what's actually going to work for you. Not that we're
Yes.
mindlessly scrolling on social media or whatever, because you get done, you're an hour or so in, you're like, crap, that did not help at all. Or maybe we're
Right.
even further down the rabbit hole because now we feel anxious that we didn't get something done. So just make sure whenever you're
Absolutely.
taking that time, you're doing it intentionally, that
That's
it's serving a
true.
purpose. Yeah.
And I think that's a whole nother thing, is like
Oh,
balance,
absolutely.
the work balance and the life balance and the
Yep.
self-care balance and all of it. So it's so good. So you mentioned, as we're gonna winding down today, you mentioned that there's that performance quiz, I think you said you could take. It's
Yep.
for anyone
Mhm.
who's really unsure, like where they're at, whether they need help with their performance. What are
Yeah.
where can people find that? If you could just kind of shout out your website, we will add it in the show notes for anyone listening, where you can just click on the link. And then also, if you could remind them who you are and where they can connect with you, for anyone who's interested in having you help them out with their performance.
Absolutely. So if you go to www.thementalperformanceexpert.com, pretty easy to remember, you go on and you will get prompted. It's kind of my freebie, if you will. So you'll see that you can get prompted to get that. And once you take the inventory, you could always schedule with me. There's a place on my website where you can contact me. On social media, on Instagram, I'm at the Mental Performance Expert. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, that's the place that I'm at a lot. So it's Mia Gardner, Gardner Zambarano, Zambarano. I'm happy to connect with you there. So those are kind of the two common places you'll find me, are Instagram and LinkedIn. So happy to answer questions, happy to schedule a consultation. There's places to do that on my website as well that I shouted out. And definitely take your performance appraisal. Whether or not you're uncertain, it's just a great inventory. It might even be validation of stuff that you're doing well that you want to continue to emphasize. So it's always good to take inventory. It can't hurt.
Yeah,
Whatever's there is
absolutely.
there, whether or not we like it. So
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
No, that's good. And you might be surprised. You might feel great and think you're doing great. And then you take your quiz and you're like, oh, I could work on this. Or, hey, I'm
Mm,
doing great on this. And it's just
yeah,
confirmation that you are doing great. So
exactly.
I love that. So before we end, and I've been asking this to all my guest speakers, and it's probably going to become a thing, any last minute anythings that you want to share, any last minute wisdom, last minute advice, last minute anything that you want to share with the audience before we end today?
Yeah, I would just say I really encourage you guys to give yourself permission to reestablish your relationship with mental health and what that means for you, and taking care of it like you would your physical health, being proactive about it, doing things you enjoy. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, there's a trickle down effect that a lot of us don't realize. Your business is going to flourish when you're flourishing. Again, not the other way around. We can't rely on external things to bring us happiness, to bring us health and wellness. It has to start with you. So just making sure you don't have it backwards, making sure that you're prioritizing yourself. And yeah, I just think, like, we limit ourselves in certain ways without realizing it. That tends to be one of them. It's just not taking care of those foundational things.
Right. Absolutely. That's excellent advice. And it's true that you got to be happy first, and
Yeah.
everything
Mhm.
else will pour out from that. Will be good. But awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here today.
Absolutely.
It was such a good conversation. I
Yeah, thank
loved
you
it.
for having me.
It's a great, oh, of course, absolutely. It's such a great conversation, that I think needs to carry on. Anyone who listened to this and like hasn't really had this conversation with anyone, or needs to talk to anyone, or needs to reach out for help, by all means, I encourage you to do that,
Yes.
because our mental health is so important, and it's so easily neglected. So if you're listening to this and you've been neglecting that aspect of your life,
Mm.
please, I encourage you to reach out for help, connect with Mia, see, how you can improve. But thank you so much for listening to the episode today. As always, we'll be here for a new episode coming soon with a new guest speaker and a new topic. And thank you again, Mia, for being our guest speaker today. It was amazing, an amazing conversation. And
Thank you.
just a reminder that you guys are listening to the Marketing and Mindset podcast. And thank you guys so much for being here. And we will see you guys the next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.